Hey guys, it's Matt. I didn't plan on making a video today, but in studying the dark part of reality, sometimes I'll hit a wall and I'll say, I have an idea, potentially what's going on here, but we need to put our heads together, ask for good comments, and finally need to have a thorough conversation or come to some sort of a conclusion as to what is going on with all this testing. Before you comment, let me float some ideas that I have. This came from me watching Mike's video at Sage of Quay. I had seen that before Medical Passport Ireland, and in terms of the amount of testing that they're attempting to put the world into, it's nothing new to us. I mean, we studied the Rockefeller white papers going back 4 months ago on this channel, and it talked about by now being able to test something like 10 million a week. I mean, just they're not there yet, but we do need to come to a conclusion or at least some sort of an understanding amongst ourselves. And again, I'll float the ideas. Please hold back, and then the commenters will ultimately, will bring all the comments together and get a better sense as to why this testing is so important to what they're trying to do here. Again, the white papers, the Rockefeller papers, talking about just ridiculous amounts of testing 10, 15 million just in the US and Canada a week, or up to, I think it might have said up to 30 million a week. So, just to start with the basics, when one, guys, if anybody's new here, let me just do 30 seconds on what my belief in this is. I believe there is something out there that is making people sick. That's a 2 out of 10 or a 1.5 out of 10, and they're using it, or they're presenting it as a 10 out of 10 to move the entire world into this new normal, or move the entire world into a new place, into a degraded human state, a lower frequency. It is not ridiculous to say human beings get sick. Okay, we've all been sick many, many times. Variety of different reasons. Strep throat, what we call flu. I'm well aware of all the germ theory stuff. It's a little bit crazy to say no, but it's just a massive hoax on, everybody working at 10,000 hospitals around the world is completely hoaxed. There's something making some people sick. It's at this point, maybe they can turn the dial up. It's relatively minor, just like anything else. But they're presenting it as a 10 out of 10 to move entire world society into a really weird place. That's what I believe. But even if you believe it's completely a hoax, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at this point, because that's not the purpose of this. I just want to tell people where I'm coming from. The purpose of this video is, why are they pushing the testing? So it's always good to start with the absolute basics. What happens during a test? A test, I believe they can mouth swab, but we've seen most of this is very jam it up the nose swabbing, I believe, is most of the testing, or PCR testing. I'm not an expert at it, but I think it's mostly nose swabbing. I think they can do it in other ways, like mouth, etc. So you have to consider, when a test is done, it is the opportunity for them, for whatever them is, we've talked about for years, and we'll do that some other time. It's an opportunity for them to get something from you, a piece of tissue, a piece of DNA. They're supposedly testing for what they call a virus, but it's an opportunity to get your most vital, an aspect of you, your DNA, okay, in your tissue. It's an opportunity for them to get something from you, but it's also opportunity for them to give something to you. Who knows what potentially is on the swab that goes up your nose? Not that all these thousands of people in their testing army, they're not in on it. Just like most people in this reality, they're not in on it. They don't know what's going on. Their job is to jam this up your nose, get a swab, take it out, and send it in somewhere. So this, the way the reality works, it's very compartmentalized. There are only a very, very small number that actually understand ultimately what's going on, in my opinion, at the very top of the creepy pyramid. So testing is an opportunity for them to take something from you and to potentially give something to you. in of course under the guise of just a simple PCR test, looking out for your good health, trying to protect your family, trying to protect your local community and your school district and your place of employment from this horrible thing. I mean, the common sense of what's going on now is if you let it, if you actually, if it was anything like they say it is, or anything like we've known a flu going around a school in the past or whatever, I don't need a lesson on germ theory, not germ theory. I'm well aware of all that at this point. But whatever the cause is, we've seen flus go around schools and we've all gone to high school and things like that. But if you just let it go and let it run its course, it eventually, per the way human beings seem to operate, whatever comes does seem to go away. The Black Plague went away. Legionnaire's disease eventually went away. But you have to expose everybody to it. But it seems like what they're doing is just the opposite. By constant isolation, constant keeping people separate, constant no school here, no school there, you're constantly, if it is anything that potentially can be passed or anything we know about traditional what we believe is the spreading of germs, then it's you're just keeping it going. And the people around us can't even see the common sense of that. Technically, if it's something that can be spread, well, if there's just a few people in the world that this is the best argument that people have why it's something that can't be spread. Why the at least the traditional germ theory about something being spread via you cough on somebody, at least according to this C thing, the best evidence that that does not apply, then you have to look at whatever this quote illness is in a whole different way, is just the nonsensical nature of how these countries go about business if it's something that be spread, if it's something that can be spread. So China, for example, I don't know what's happening in China right now. Maybe your friend Nige can fill me in just with a few sentences here and there. But I was, it was lockdown central in January and February, about that time, and then it spread to the U.S. or whatever, Italy, and we know we've been through all that. But then it was kind of like China did a George Bush and it landed on the carrier and got out and said mission accomplished in like May or June. It's all we did it, mission accomplished. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, maybe they're going back into it. I don't know. But for at least for several months, China announced mission accomplished. Well, it's just so it's defying first grade common sense. If it's something that can be spread, then the first time anybody flies back into China from Western Europe or wherever, Australia, the United States, and they give it to one person in China at a market, then it would just spread all over again. You can't possibly announce mission accomplished if something can be spread. It is very, very confusing, very strange. What's strange, I mean, is how the people around us, your friends, family, neighbors, you can explain this to them like, well, how is China in June announcing mission accomplished? Their cases went down to almost nothing or to zero, and they're putting billboards up congratulating all the doctors and hospitals how wonderful they did. Because if it's something that can be spread, the first flight that comes in tomorrow will just come right back again. What? So this breakdown, this gets into the new normal of what human beings are becoming. I don't want to stray too much. I would like to touch a little bit of that, but that's probably its own video. The new normal as to what human beings are becoming. Just a little antidote. Experience it today. There is and again, I don't watch the news. Maybe they're saying Pennsylvania, all these cases are ramping up, but there's my neighbor here. All right, my neighbor is a handyman, and I can do a lot myself. But when there's valves just dripping, I don't do any of that. Electrical, I don't do any of that. So he's over the years come up and helped me with a lot of stuff. And he came back. He was here helping me with something. I'll just try to. This story is it's relevant. It really is. The new normal is the way people are behaving. I'll try to keep it under 2 minutes. He helped me with something this summer. Now to look at what it was, he first came with a mask. And I said, you don't have to wear that, neighbor, just we know each other for 12, 13, 14 years. But he's like, no, I need to wear this, whatever. Then he came back to do the job, and the mask like immediately went off. And he was saying, can you hold this and hold that? And I was right there with him. So I was like, well, why were you so Okay, well, he's loosened up to it. He sees I'm healthy. He's not as worried about it. I'm kind of in, can you hold this close proximity? So, okay, so the mask, he had to come back a half day over the course of 2 days. The mask never came back. Now, something else happened here. I said, can you come up and take a look at this? He was here this morning. He was just here, and we were kind of working together just a month and a half ago or so, 2 months ago. He comes today to look at what I said, can you fix this dripping, whatever, and he comes with the mask on, and we're outside. It's like related to like my hose, and he's like outside. He's got the mask on, and I'm thinking, well, I don't get it. He was here just 2 months ago, and after the initial kind of consultation, the mask went away. Now it's back, and we're outside, and he's wearing it. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, what's going on here with people? Um, I don't know. It's just strange. Again, maybe he saw news stories and he's scared again. I don't know. But people are acting just really, really bizarre in a lot of different areas. You'll have certain businesses that just seem to be very, very, everything's perfect and very anybody in the Northeast, you go in without a mask, they'll move to remove you from the store. But then you'll go to another, pick up some bread and milk over here, and behind the really cheap plexiglass, the kid's got the mask like hanging down. It's like some dirty thing just hanging under his nose, and nobody cares. And it's just bizarre. This is why this fallacy of perfect compliance that my friend Tony gives is so ridiculous. He shot me an email. I was emailing him, and I just don't bother anymore. But he emailed me, I don't know, 2 months ago. Oh, if you freedom lovers or whatever, if everybody would have done what they were supposed to, we'd be out of this by now. Well, it's actually just the opposite. By everybody isolating and protecting, it just whatever, if anything can be spread, it just keeps going and going and going forever. It's probably part of the plan. But he said, if people just did what they're supposed to, and you freedom lovers should keep going in without masks, and you're facilitating the spread. And I email him back and I say, this is the fallacy of perfect compliance. I've talked about this before. In any population of, say, make a clean number, 100 million people, you're going to have, out of 100 million, a clean number, roughly 35 million that just don't even know how to comply. You're going to have brain damaged people, people that are just off, homeless people, criminals, people that just don't give a crap about anything, junkies, just the kid at when you go to pick up your bread and milk, and then the next door over, the kid's just these guys that hanging down. He just doesn't care. You're going to have, not out of 100 million people, you're not going to have like a million. You just have to worry. You're going to have like 35% of the population that isn't basically capable of complying. They'll, even if they try, they have the same dirty mask as in the car month after month, which just spreads more. So I went back to him. I said, this is like, where do you get this? The fallacy of perfect compliance. So all these measures only work if literally everybody did the right thing. And this is where it's nonsensical how they explain away Hong Kong. I don't know what Hong Kong has now, but right with 10,000 people going back and forth to Wuhan, 10,000 people going back and forth right during the time they say it started. Hong Kong had 3 deaths for 5 months. And then they give you the same thing. Well, they know how to deal with it, and they've seen this before, and they're a mass culture. Like, well, it's Hong Kong. There's slums, there's criminals, there's heroin addicts, there's people that just don't care, there's people that are mentally just off, a whole homeless shanty towns. It's a giant city. So where do these people around us, and I'm sure you know people that have this fallacy of perfect compliance. And let's just say if everybody did perfectly comply, you would actually, if it is something that can be spread, you would then have it constantly isolated, and then once people got back together, it would then start spreading again. You'd never get rid of it. And maybe if it does spread, that's one of their plan. That's part of the goal. I don't know. But back to the purpose of this video, getting comments. When you put something up somebody's nose, you take something from them, but you also have the opportunity to give something to them. And it's scary if you study dark reality. It's scary both ways. In terms of taking, there's no doubt in my mind that in addition to what it's posited and under the guise of just a PCR test looking out for your good health, they're taking DNA. No question about it, of course. And what this is, in my opinion, is just the next level of 23andMe and Ancestry. And they had opportunity ways to get people's DNA, a lot of different ways, giving of blood, but somehow, to me, it's been clear for a while that there is some sort of AI running a literal reality simulation on the exact population. I don't think it's they estimate how a group of Puerto Ricans or a group of Italian Americans will act. I think they almost, in the simulation, your straw man, your exact representation of you may exist in the simulation. And it's almost the way the Rockefeller Foundation talks about the need for 30 million tests a week. It's almost like to make the straw man inside the simulation that represents you be actually completely accurate and predictive of what not a group of people will do, but what actually you might do. They need some DNA from almost everybody, potentially. Now, in terms of the ins and outs of how this would work and the sophistication of some creepy Skynet, I have no idea. I have no idea. All I know, it's about 100 billion times more powerful probably than that IBM computer that beat the Russian chess champ in 1985 or whatever. It's just things that they don't talk about. That, Wired magazine will talk about a supercomputer being able to do this. Well, what they really have behind door number 2 makes that look like, what is it? The Mattel games we used to play football in the 70s. Little dots would go across the screen. Make it look like that. So they want everybody's DNA. But, well, Matt, what if I don't know, let's just walk this through and think this through together. Once they get everybody's DNA, for whatever reason, there's going to be a segment of the truth community that just will avoid it at all costs. But at some point, they might be able to just eventually get everybody's DNA for whatever reason. I'll just give you an example. When years and years ago, when I was working for the big insurance company, I needed to be licensed in Florida. And Florida required no, it wasn't a blood sample. No, it was a fingerprinting. Florida was fingerprinting, but I've given blood. I mean, I'm just saying we all have given away our DNA. But then somebody might say, and we'll work this through together potentially. I don't know the answer. Why do they need the Army, the constant testing? Like a lot of school kids will be tested over the course of going to college for 4 years. They'll be tested 10 times, 15, 20 times potentially. Depending on how they present the Savior, the Action Jackson, when that's going to come out. My prediction is still February to March of 2021 when they'll roll that out. I believe it already exists. It's just part of, they didn't get involved in this thing without knowing every step along the way. It's not like in my opinion, any Action Jackson need to be created. Whether it's a serum of nothing or there's something real to it, it would have been all created and designed before they even got involved in this giant scheme, whether people are actually getting sick or not. So I still am sticking to March and February of next year. There's some people that are saying it could be a little sooner than that because they're apparently injecting the Chinese military, but there's some people in the know that are saying it'll probably be a few months after that as well. In my opinion, it's already there. They already have it. Whatever they plan on rolling out, they already have. And it's just part of the AI simulation looking at how human beings are. They'll take it to the breaking point. They'll extend it out as long as they can. How long the economy's holding together, how long people are holding together without literally just going absolutely bonkers. And if they can push it to June or July, the Action Jackson, then they will. They'll get as much. They have to cause as much pain as possible while still managing the flight, managing the creepy flight with the Crypt Keeper at the wheel, managing it so it works in their favor. They don't want it. They're not perfect. It can break down. They don't want it to completely break down into chaos. The part of the truth community that keeps talking about that, they're out of their minds. They're out of their minds. Or they're stupid. Okay. Whatever the dark reality is that we study, let me inform a few people of some things. They've had 1,000 opportunities in the last 50 years to break society down into absolute chaos if that's what they want. Well, Matt, they have to work within their astrology. Now is the time between the conjunction. Well, then they had the opportunity in the last 6 weeks. Fake two EMPs or put two real EMPs, whatever. Knock out power. Fake two EMPs. Pull the power. Knock out power to Los Angeles, San Diego, Phoenix, New York, and Philadelphia and Baltimore, and that's it. And the whole United States is basically it evolves into bad scenes from Mad Max the Road Warrior in about a month. That's all it would take. Just shut the power down. Would evolve. You guys like the Humongous out there collecting recruits. They can do this at any time. In some way, they need a permission, or in some way that per the way this reality works, we need to doom ourselves. They can't just directly do it to us per the. It seems like the rules here, but they didn't go through all this. Manage this thing. Manage this. It's a managed flight. You're just put your seat back at this point. The crypt keepers at the helm. They wanted to crash the thing. They could have crashed it any time. They just went out of their way. That the ridiculous part of the truth community. They're out to kill us all, and then they want complete chaos in the streets. They could have done that at any time. They didn't go out of their way to meticulously manage everything, make sure the economy is holding up in an unnatural way. 30, 40, 50 major companies should already have failed. They probably already did. They just were injected the next morning. The lights went back on and nobody noticed anything different. But come on, these people in the truth community too, guys. I don't. You can't. Don't. There should be no videos in the truth community without the 3 steps. I mean, I'm pathetic for presenting it as late as I did. What's the trick? Can you see through it? Step 2, what kind of reality can pull that shit off? And what does that say about me, the nature of who I really am, and understanding or remembering who you really are? So shame on me for not doing this until about a year ago. But how much of the truth community is doing this? Almost no one. Almost no one that presents, whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to do a video without tying in the 3 steps. That's all that's important. Without step 2 is irrelevant. Without getting to step 3. They want you on step 1 and even 2 pondering what kind of reality can pull. As long as you don't get to step 3, they're thrilled. That's what all the controlled animal farms are for, both in the old-fashioned media like Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck, as well as all the controlled animal farms on YouTube. See me doing any shows? How many TED Talks I've done? How many see me doing speaking events? See me like years and years ago I was a guest on because Dan and I have been truther friends at Scarab Performance for years and years and years. Been on Dan's show a few times. Chris Geo don't come to me to do no radio show. All these people, where do they get these radio shows? These truth channels have 5, 10, 15,000 subscribers and they end up with like some radio show or something. Nobody approaches me to do anything, even an interview. And I'm not, well, Matt, why, maybe you're giving yourself too much credit. Why would anybody want to talk to you? Well, maybe, but I'm saying in terms of seeing through the matrix code, I've kind of proven to be as good as anybody, at least. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but as good as anybody. And okay, Mike, my friend Mike at Sage of Quay, we talked a year and a half ago. But it's just strange. You see these channels, and all of a sudden they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing. Nobody approaches me. No, I don't get no Anarchapulco invites, nor do I want any. Okay, so anyway, so I've always thought that the more I keep going there and actually calling out the truth community, this channel will go away, and if it ever does, just go to Quantum of Conscience, all spelled out.com, and I'll have a note there in a day or two as to where I'll pop up. But in terms of the test and the testing army that's being built and the millions and millions of tests, the place to start is when you test. It's the opportunity to take something from you And as they get everybody's DNA, and eventually they will get everybody's DNA. And well, again, if you're a truther on your own land somewhere and you can hold out, well, that's wonderful. I hope we all can hold out. But eventually they're going to get 99 point, well, whatever. You can never say 99.9 again in the truth community. Then that's just that. After all the good information Matt's trying to deliver, that's just Matt dropping a 666. You can never say 99.9 again ever again in the truth community, because then you're forget everything else you said. Then you're labeled a shill, and you're because you dropped a 666. So we've been, walking on eggshells. We've been meant to avoid that. You can never say two or three options, because that's a 2/3. That's a 666. Sorry, I do this every time. It's my pet peeve. So they will eventually get everybody's DNA, or 99 point whatever. So then they don't need it anymore. The AI simulation, it's the creepy Skynet is running everything it needs to be running to basically predict what you're going to do before you know what you're going to do. And that's even ignoring that the old scientific experiment where scientists could predict 6 seconds, up to 6 seconds in advance, which choice someone would make if they had electrodes on the brain before they were even cognitively or aware of it in the frontal lobes, which gets into, do we even have free will versus, well, we need to talk about TJ's free will versus free won't as much as possible. I still believe, I don't care what those experiments show, I do believe that we have free will, and maybe that's part of the big life challenge, is to get yourself in a position where you evolve, where you actually have free will, where most people believe they have free will but they don't. Maybe that's something we still need to evolve into, complete free will. Maybe we're not quite there. And if as we get free will, it leads to free won't. It leads to, I'm not going to take your duality, option one, option two, your Biden, Trump, your jerk off over here and your jerk off over there. I'm going to do neither. I'm going to go a completely separate way. It's like, wouldn't it be great that Price is Right, or not Price is Right, come on down into hell, or whatever game show that does the door number one or door number two. I don't know. Don't comment. It's not worth it. But you've seen it. Door number one or door number two. If you're over 40, you know what I'm talking about. It's very foreign if you're under 25. But wouldn't it be great if somebody on the stage, as it was being filmed, just went, yeah, F it. Neither. Just walk the F off. Got a snow cone or something. Wouldn't that be a nice change of pace? You don't see that much. They get, oh, door number one, a new car, yeah! And then it comes in, there's $8,000 of taxes or something the person can't even pay, and they end up getting repossessed, and what seems so wonderful turns into hell. But anyway, so when you get tested, they're going to eventually get everybody's DNA. So the AI supercomputer is going to have everything it needs to run. If you could peek into it at Penn State, they took us, was it, I don't know, physics class or something, I don't know. They took us to the nuclear reactor. What did Chekhov say? Take me to the nuclear vessels in Star Trek 4, the nuclear vessels. We went to the nuclear reactor, and we just walk right up to it. Like, what? I was creeped out. Like, it's in this pool. You look into this pool, and like 30 feet down in this pool, these glowing blue rods. And like, is this safe? Is this so? Where was I going with that? Look, it's like looking at the nuclear reaction. We're talking about the testing. Oh yeah. So where I was going with that was creepy to be led into there. Well, how about being led into the actual room where the artificial simulation's going on for the world simulated reality run by AI Skynet, basically that giant supercomputer from Westworld. And it says, no, we can peek in and we can see you. You can see yourself. Look, zooming in on there's an exact representation of who you are. We haven't had the graphics done or upgrades yet, so it doesn't really look like you. It's just a stick figure, but it has all your information. It's actually you. You can follow yourself in the AI Skynet simulation. It might be that sophisticated, and they might need DNA to actually reconstruct a virtual world that's eventually going to put you in, and you'll wake up into it and you'll think it's you. Like literally the Matrix. Is it literally going into the Matrix or evolving into the Matrix? That just kind of hit me. It's scary. I'll think about that some other time. But it's just a stick figure. But ask it a question. Type it in like, what was your favorite food in the dining hall the freshman year at Penn State? What are they called? Some kind of chicken patties. I forget what they called. not chicken McNuggets, and the straw man in the artificial simulation, that it's completely mapped you. It comes back chicken patties. Like, how would it know that? I'm telling you, there's something weird going. They need your DNA. Now, once they get everybody's DNA, then the purpose of the testing armies, test, 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 test. Oh, test before school. Every freshman at Penn State will need to be tested once a month, and oh, dorms will be set up people that if you have it, you got to go into this leper dorm. So then, unfortunately, they don't need anything from you anymore because they have your DNA. The testing will be about potentially giving you something. And in the truth community, we always think that, oh, once they put that one nanobot up your nose, you're Borg. I mean, you just free will is irrelevant. Self-determination is irrelevant. We will study your technology. We'll be one with the Borg. But maybe it takes time. Maybe it takes, they're not all knowing and all powerful. Maybe, whatever eventually, though, under the guise of a test, they can put a small amount of whatever into you, and maybe they need to do that 15 times for people to evolve or devolve into the state that they want. That a purpose of constant a testing army, just for your good health, just to protect your community and your school district. Potentially something is being put into you, and maybe they're not putting they're not putting anything into anybody yet, but potentially that's being worked on as they are getting everybody habituated and just the new normal. We need to do a video on all the different facets of the new normal. The new normal is 20 different things, and one of the facets of the new normal is constant testing all the time. And whenever the vaccination might come out, and that will have to return a bit of the real world to people that take it, at least for a short period of time, 6 months to 2 years. But the testing army, the tracking, tracing, and testing army will already be set up. It's like hardened cement. Once you create a Department of Homeland Security, then it's there. It doesn't ever go anywhere. No president's going to go, we don't need you guys anymore. Nobody blows anything up anymore. We know all this terrorism thing. Nobody gets sent home. Nobody's paycheck is ever interrupted. Nobody's pension. Once it's there, the cement hardens times a billion. You can't get rid of it. So that's the same with the tracking and testing and tracing army. And then well, everything's fine now, but there will be another pandemic and something else. There's what I'm saying is this tracking, tracing army of testing, swabs, things like that. That seems to be almost more important than the V itself. The V itself seems to be being used to create the new normal, or the getting used to, or habituation of constant testing. Every Friday, kids in public school will get tested. It'll become the new normal. So the testing is, to me, I've always kind of felt the testing is almost more important, or the what they're trying to get out of all of this, because it's not about the test is an opportunity to take from you and give to you something physically. And maybe they could get out of their karma load by saying, well, people are agreeing to it. That's why they're never going to come in and throw you down on your kitchen counter and forcibly do whatever. They can't operate that way unless you've already made a series and variety of contracts with them leading up to that. You're taking state money for this, state money for that. You've agreed to this contract, that contract. You've clicked I agree in 50 different areas. Then maybe they surpass their karma threshold where they say, well, you've basically, by doing everything way you've lived your life, we come in and force the vaccination on you. But for most people, or at least truthers that are trying to cut ties and separate, and even there's no small thing you can do without thinking about cutting ties, guys. You get I told you about the two TVs that were both smashed. The third one, of course, to set it up, you have to agree. You have to, everyone say, well, I'm going to click agree every time. Intention. I just do this. Every chance I get, I'm going to click agree because I want to watch the television. I'm not going to get into the holier than thou. Throw your TV out, people. I'll get a lecture. That's what I choose to do. Everybody has something that takes their mind off this absolute insane asylum out our window. That's what I choose to do. I'm sure if I looked into certain people's skeletons in the closet, or I'm sure they would. There's some things that probably they're not too proud of either. But we're in the avatar. We all have certain limitations and vices. That's what I choose to do to escape at night. I like a good movie and a few beers. That's what I choose to do. And I was ready to completely hit the wall on Sunday after all those videos. Just one day, Monday, I didn't expect to make a video today, but I'm completely fresh mentally just from kind of getting away. Although I did a lot of emails yesterday. So the two TVs, and the third was like, do you agree to this? Do you agree to that? And I'm saying, yeah, I'm agreeing to it to get television. If this is some weird trick to get me to agree to something or to make contract with something on behalf of the system, I don't agree to that. So I believe there's power in that intention. I really do. So they're never going to just come in and throw you down. The reality doesn't work that way. It needs you to agree. It needs your buy-in. Ultimately, it needs you to degrade yourself, or to push yourself as Andy down into that lower frequency. And there are problems with the purity of that theory, because there have been 18-year-olds tricked to enter a certain war, and then they first day out they get shot up with bullets. And did he agree to that? I mean, this cooked up war that the system created. You can get into there's definitely a case to be made where you can say they caused direct harm and death to a lot of people. But overall, I think most people would agree the way it tends to work is you have to do it to yourself. That their karma meter might, they were causing direct death, and the karma meter is getting to a red line. Well, okay, back off the direct death. We can only cause so much direct death. We need them to do it to themselves. It's generally how it works. It goes back to all the old stories of Satan and the Satan archetype. He's not showing up and just damning people to hell by grabbing them in the back of the net. Off to hell with you. It's Faust and Fausti and Mephistopheles and all these stories about deals, agreements, and deal with the devil. The devil went down to Georgia, getting the person to make decisions on their own. The devil doesn't just show up and grab you by the back of the neck and like, off to the pit with you, I gotcha. No, it's like, I can't really touch you. You're going to do it to yourself. So the devil went down to Georgia. The devil didn't lose that fiddle battle. I talked about this about a year and a half ago. Devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal. He didn't lose. He didn't lose. He wanted. He gave it up to Johnny. He gets Johnny to believe he won. Then he gives Johnny materialistic gold, the gold fiddle. And what does Johnny probably do with that? Oh, he probably went out and got every whore in town, doomed himself, became a heroin junkie and addict. He gave him the materialism. He said, well, I can't do it to you directly, Johnny. I'm going to fake losing to your little fiddle. Oh, you were such a good fiddler. It's kind of like Jam On It, where Superman goes against Cosmo, and Superman probably faked it too. He was the devil in that case. It was the devil posing as Superman. Rocked this, with a 12-inch cut, something like that. Anyway, so devil went down to Georgia, and he lost on purpose. You think Johnny, this asshole, is going to lose to the freaking devil? He got the gold fiddle, and what the devil knows? What's he going to do with that gold fiddle? Is he going to start? He's going to start orphanages in Africa, like our friend Saint whatever. His name is so hard for me to figure out. I like his channel. He does the orphanage. He's a good guy. But no, Johnny's going to use the gold and probably screw himself with it. Yeah, devil knows that. Devil lost that shit on purpose. So run boy, run. Anyway, guys. So what's the purpose of this massive testing army? And it almost seems like the testing. Perhaps the V is actually being used. We think the ultimate end of everything is the ultimate end of everything. We think is the V, the threat of illness. The mask is part of the ritual, of course, and the Action Jacksonation. And although, of course, every one of those is important to the dark jerk-offs, it almost seems like the test at least would be equally as important. or the tracking and tracing and testing army, the new normal in that is equally as important. So a lot I threw out here, about 40 minutes, and yeah, it's good to be refreshed. I hope that made sense. It felt like it was coming out, in a way you could understand. Look for the comments. Thanks, guys.